It takes a big part away from me. He's kind of like, I felt like he was my life. Like he was something that was so close to me, and to have something like this happen to him, it just tears me apart. I mean, we stood up crying all night last night because he's just so big to us, and to have him leave, it's just like, why? I don't think it was his time to go. It wasn't his time.
I know all the songs, so I just want to have a part of history. That's all.
This is something that we want you to know, that I was asked a question last night about the record company. Well, what I'm doing is I established a record company with Marshall, and the company is called Marantz Record, distributed by Blue Star and Blu-ray. Yeah. So we have a lot of good artists fixing to come out.
Yeah, it should be about Michael, not about him. You know, his son died, should be mourning and crying instead of talking about his record label. So it shouldn't be about him at all. It should be about his son.
You want to feel bad and you want to support the family, but right now is not the time to kind of plug, make a little plug of yourself. It's about Michael.
I represent Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, and I represented Michael Jackson for several years.
Yeah. So, I spoke to Mr. Jackson. He said the family is doing well. Can you tell us, in your estimation, how they're holding up?
Well, they're grieving, but they're a very strong and loving family, and I'm very proud of them. And the ones that I've seen and had the opportunity to witness is just a strength and compassion and a lot of love in this family.
Joe Jackson said, yes, I have some concerns about the doctor.
Well, we haven't gotten into too much of the details, and as lawyer, I'm focusing on other legal matters and hoping that the medical examiner and others will come up with what happened. But we're watching that closely, and I'll let Joe speak for himself with respect to that.
And he said he has some concerns about the last moments of his son's life as well.
Well, under such a tragic and unfortunate situation, it's like we lost a major constellation and a nice guy with Michael. He was just a phenomenal person, and under such tragic circumstances, one would be concerned and have certain questions.
There have been reports about prescription drug use and abuse.
I know nothing about that in particular.
That Michael may have had a Demerol shot, that the doctor gave him a shot. The doctor today saying he didn't.
Well, we'll see exactly what happens when the reports come out.
How was Michael's health in the last months of his life?
From what I'm told, he was in excellent physical fitness, and he had just performed the night before and nights prior, and he was in great shape, and he was looking forward to performing in the shows. And Michael Jackson was a very thin man, but he was a very strong man.
There are concerns about what may happen to his children.
His children are in great care with Mrs. Jackson. They're in a loving environment. She's a great grandma, and I couldn't think of anyone better for these children than a grandma like Miss Catherine Jackson and the loving, supportive family of the Jacksons at the Havenhurst estate.
Is she seeking custody of the children?
Well, she will seek custody of the children. That's who Michael would have wanted to have the children. She loves them dearly.
Was there a will?
Well, there have been reports of one, and we're trying to assess that now. None has been presented to the family at this time.
And not through his attorney, through you? A will has not surfaced?
I have not seen a will at this time.
If there is no will, who gets his assets?
Well, if there's no will, then under the state of California, it goes to the next of kin. That's an adult to administer and oversee for the best interests of the children, and that would be Mr. and Mrs. Jackson. And Catherine Jackson is the duly appointed person.
So it would not be, Debbie Rowe or anyone like that?
No.
There's also concern about, that there was debt and that sort of thing. Can you talk to us about Michael Jackson's financial situation before he died?
No, I cannot. I can't talk about the financial situation.
Talk to us about the second autopsy. You said a second autopsy is being done or has been done?
I understand that it's currently being done.
Has the family gotten any results from the first autopsy?
I'm not sure what the latest results have been, but that is something that we'll be talking about shortly.
Anything else that you want to share with us about the family, about Michael at this point? There's one other thing that I want to ask you. We saw moving trucks at Michael Jackson's rented home yesterday, taking some of his things out. Do you know who ordered that and what they took out and where it went?
Family want to protect his possessions and make sure that they're in great safekeeping. I mean, Michael Jackson was not just a phenomenal performer, but he was a phenomenal person with great spirit and energy that touched so many people. I think the family want to thank everyone for their love and support. We also want to have a time to just pay our respects to Michael and also to some of those people who felt so touched by it that they've taken their own life. And so we want to also be mindful that Michael touched people so much that we want to also be very, very, very careful about that.
It had been reported that they were taking things out of the home because Michael hadn't paid rent and they thought maybe the owners of the home would come and take his possession.
There have been so many rumors and speculation around Michael Jackson. Almost all of them are false. And if there's any one thing that any of us can walk away with such a tragedy is that his soul and hopefully these rumors are at rest and he's at peace.
There was a report in the London paper about the nanny saying that she had, pumped Michael's stomach several times and that she said that he did have an issue with drugs, prescription drugs.
Again, almost all of the reports that I've seen and that I know of, as an attorney, I can evaluate the facts, have been false. So I would attribute these to false statements. And at the end of the day, the truth comes to light. And what we want to do is bring the truth to the surface and to the light. We want to have him buried with the legacy and the dignity that he deserves. And we want to look at what's the best interest of these children so that they can be safe and that they can grow up well. And that his legacy speaks to the love and the musicality and creativity that he intended us all to have.
I know that you guys don't have funeral arrangements set yet, but you have to have been talking about them. Can you share with us any idea of where it might be, what they may do? Because we know it's probably there will be probably a private ceremony, but I'm sure there'll be a public one as well.
I have to respect the wishes of the family, and certainly as an attorney, I don't impose myself in those areas. Certainly this is a personal matter, and the family is handling the funeral arrangements with the personal care. So I'll let the family speak on that, and I'll just deal with making sure, again, that the best interests of the children are first and foremost, that his person, his creativity, and his estate is administered with the dignity and the respect that he deserves.
For a fleeting moment today, cameras caught Michael Jackson's father and then his mother out shopping. The superstar's parents, family, friends say are suspicious about how Jackson died.
Michael was training 3 hours a day and dancing. A couple of young people said at 25 he was out dancing them. He just passed a physical test, and from that to massive cardiac arrest, at least created some concern.
That concern surrounds the doctor who was with Jackson when he collapsed. Dr. Conrad Murray was reportedly giving him painkillers. He's been interviewed by LA's police.
We've been assured by the LA PD Homicide Division that he is not in any way a suspect in the death of Mr. Jackson, but he is a witness as to events potentially leading up to Mr. Jackson's death, and that's why they want to talk to him.
We will do a thorough interview with the doctor to discuss some of the unanswered questions that have been raised by the death of Michael Jackson. And, you know, we expect that the doctor will be able to shed some light on some things that when viewed in conjunction with the coroner's findings will lead us to some conclusion.
Toxicology reports from the coroner's office, as you heard, are going to take several weeks. Until then, there's going to be a lot of speculation. There's already plenty of rumors. Tonight, we're reporting only the facts that are known. 360 MD Dr. Sanjay Gupta joins us. He's both a neurosurgeon and a certified medical examiner. Also, addiction medicine specialist, Dr. Drew Pinsky. Why would, why would Michael Jackson have a full-time doctor around the clock, or at least a full-time doctor who was with him and I guess left his own practice and has been hired by AEG, which is the company that was putting on these series of shows in London, to just take care of Michael Jackson?
I really have no idea. You know, I've thought about that a lot. Maybe it was something contractual that he asked for from AEG, just wanted to have this doctor available all the time. Unless someone has some sort of chronic illness or is bedridden or needs some sort of constant care, it's really hard to explain why a doctor would need to live with him around the clock.
Dr. Drew?
Yeah, that was a very bizarre feature of this. But back to the insurance issue, we've all had insurance physicals. They're fairly cursory. All he'd have to show is that either A, if he's on meds, he's following the appropriate plan of the doctor's prescribing them, or B, not even mention that he's on the medication. And it's not that in-depth a physical typically. Or, again, pure speculation, maybe as part of the insurance issue, they wanted a physician to monitor him. We just don't know. This is how my patients die. It looks like a rose, it smells like a rose. All my patients, when they go through the experiences, end up with chronic pain, they end up receiving meds from multiple doctors, and they end up dead.